Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Your Bridge to Addiction Resources, a program that is sponsored by the Council on Chemical Abuse and the People Chronicles. My name is Yvonne Stroman. I will be your host for this afternoon. I'm here with Tyler Bard from the Topton Ambulance Services. Tyler, how are you today?
Very good. How are you?
Good, good. And so just kind of going to talk to you a little bit today about the services that you do in Topton as an EMT person, but more importantly, want to speak with you about an issue that you probably know better than I in terms of the opioid crisis and your role as an EMT, you know, the importance of naloxone, when it should be distributed, when it shouldn't be, and how do people access naloxone, because you do some training around that, and more importantly, what might be some even better is for individuals who may be using that you might find unconscious. So how long have you been working with the Topton Ambulance Services?
I've been with Topton Ambulance for the last 8 years. I've been a paramedic for the last 10 years, okay. 6 of which I worked in the city of Allentown as a paramedic as well.
Okay, okay. And how did you, so you were in Allentown, and then what interested you in Berks County? I think you're a Berks County native, right?
I grew up here. I grew up in Kutztown. I lived there pretty much all my life.
Okay.
I graduated from high school, went to paramedic school out in Allentown, and just being in the area, I happened to start working at Topton as a paramedic part-time, and I've been there ever since 2008.
Wow. So what got you interested in that, in the services?
I actually went to vote tech in high school,
okay.
And got my EMT certificate in high school and just fell in love with it. Just fell in love with helping people. And when I was done with school, I was like, I don't know if I want to go to college. So okay. I decided to go to paramedic school right out of it, which I found out it was just as tough as college.
Yes.
And it was a long, long year and a very rewarding year. And then I became a paramedic. I've been one for the last almost 10 years now. So.
Yeah. So I'm going to date myself, and there's a show back in the day that used to be called Emergency. You're probably too young to remember Emergency, but I remember it. And so we would see people respond to situations. Folks were caught in maybe a tunnel and couldn't get out. People were, you know, hanging out of burning buildings. What is an EMT? What is the role of an EMT? I'm just guessing, but you probably can tell us better.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually familiar with the show, but I hate to say it's all probably the syndications and reruns. But I mean, it's not as glorious as they show on TV. I mean, a lot of the stuff, you know, we go every day out in the out in the street and help someone from simple as, you know, they hurt their foot or something like that, to someone that's having a heart attack, to someone that has overdosed. I mean, we can see a majority of things. You know, you just never know what you're going to see from day to day. You can't just go on like another regular job and say, today I'm going to do this, this, and this, because you never know what's going to happen just that day. You know, could be a holiday and it could be nothing. The next holiday you work, you could see something very tragic. So it's just difficult to be able to say what we're going to do in day out. But we know we're probably going to go out and at least help one person a day, or you know, see or try to at least help an individual with something.
So let me ask you about the opioid crisis and what's happening in our community, in the Berks County community, as it relates to the use of opioids. People are overdosing on opioids, and have, during your span of time as a emergency medical technician, has that been escalating? Have you seen it get progressively worse?
So you know, working in a city environment, it was a common thing for us to see people that overdosed on heroin. Little did we really know, you know, growing up in the Kutztown area, the Topton area, very close communities, are next to each other, really didn't see it that much. And then all of a sudden, you know, time flies. I think it's almost 2.5, 3 years ago now. We saw it hit Topton very hard, really quick. You know, we had a couple kids die at a young age, and everybody in the community wanted to know what was going on. And that's where we really came into play with the ambulance service. We had joined the community group and helped out, try to explain, you know, some things. And then we got kind of joined forces with COCA to get out in the community and help everybody else learn about, you know, how you can prevent someone that has overdosed on Opioids. Yeah.
And can I ask what the age range was at
yeah,
that time?
That time it was, you know, it was the 18 to mid-20 range.
Yeah, babies.
Yep.
Babies.
And a lot, had used in the past, had been clean, and then used again.
Okay. And when you say had used in the past, they had used some type of drug, probably heroin.
Heroin or an Oxycontin.
Or Oxycontin. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. And yeah, thank you for that. I guess, as I'm thinking about this, when we're talking about opioids, we're talking about Oxycontin, oxycodone, Vicodin.
Yeah, not as much, but yeah, we'll see that as well.
And then oftentimes as a result of maybe there was an injury, maybe there was a physical injury whereby they'd gotten these pain pills, and then what happens is they become dependent upon them. Yep. And then oftentimes when the doctor says, I can't prescribe you anymore, folks might know somebody who then has heroin.
Yep.
Okay. And have you, in your professional experience, had to be called to the scene as a result of an overdose?
Far more often when I did work in Allentown as a paramedic, but it has become a thing that we see often even in the Topton community. A few weeks ago we had one as well. So we're still seeing it. We saw a high spike. It's kind of went down, but it's kind of even itself out. We hope to not see it, come back up again. Yeah. But we are still, seeing it in our community.
And we've been doing, the Council on Chemical Abuse has been really working hand in hand with your company as it relates to Naloxone Training.
Yep.
What does that entail? Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yep. So like I said, when we had, kind of joined forces with you guys to teach Naloxone, we had gone out into the community and created a presentation to show everybody how to treat someone that's, the result of an opiate overdose. Mm-hmm. And I had created a PowerPoint presentation, and the first thing we did was to train the trainer class at COCA, mm-hmm. and taught everybody how to tell the signs that someone's overdosing, and then the biggest thing obviously was how to use the Narcan that came in the kits.
And Narcan is
what?
Okay.
What that
but
does
it's the antidote.
Yeah,
right?
It's the antidote. It will enter the body, and it actually will stop the heroin or the Oxycontin or the opioid from doing what it's doing to the brain, which mm-hmm. is slowing everything down, slowing their breathing down, mm-hmm. and it'll actually counteract that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so, but you're also doing presentations out in the community.
Yeah, we'll go out in the community and talk about it, and we always have our door open if anybody's ever any questions, especially the ambulance service, or they're able to call and say, hey, this is going on. How can I get Narcan, or how can mm-hmm. I schedule a class? And we've had a ton of people, fire departments, community members say, hey, I hear you guys are out with COCA. How do we get to be a part of that? And that, I think, is really neat that we've been able to get out, and the word has spread fast that, we're doing this. Mm-hmm. And it's really impacted a bunch of people.
Have you had any opposition in your line of work to Naloxone? I know there was maybe a year ago whereby this had hit the newspapers, and I know that some of the law enforcement were concerned about having to have it on their presence during duty. What do you think? It's
one of those difficult things, because I've seen both sides of it, and you have that mentality of you really try to help somebody, and then you help them, and then they don't want help afterwards. I think that's the biggest part, that especially in the law enforcement emergency medical services is the hard part. Okay. Is that when you treat them and you give them the Narcan, they wake up, and I've had instances where they could be very aggressive, mm-hmm. But a lot of times they don't want any help from you, even though you want to try to help. So that's probably the hardest part. My thing, and I tell everybody when we do the presentations, is we put AEDs out in the community for people that have heart attacks, and you're not going to stop people from eating terrible food.
Right.
But every day we try to battle that by having all the health stuff out there and the nutrition stuff. We're trying to battle the heroin thing. Why not have something out there for people to use in case you can't stop it? So right. I consider it the same thing, but there's always people that will say it's not. But.
Yeah. There was an article that I had recently read whereby there were folks who thought that the availability of Narcan would just encourage the use, and that would encourage the use of opioids and irresponsible use of opioids, and then somebody would be by their side with the Narcan. And I appreciate what you talked about in terms of the AEDs being available, that it's just in case. But part of that is education and
Yep.
the importance of educating our community about the value of having naloxone available in the homes. And so, we've worked very hard with Topton and other ambulance services, as well as some of the law enforcement, to make that available in many of the homes and schools and neighbors. But are you seeing that that's being done in that way in terms of folks are just kind of?
It really, I don't think, it personally hasn't made a difference. We haven't seen a spike or really it's really stayed about the same. But now it's out there. It's out there to be able to be used. And, the big thing is with the law enforcement carrying is a lot of times they get there before us and have given it beforehand. And the same with the fire departments. It's really nice that everybody has a tool at their hand. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think one of the things, is there anything that you would like to say to an individual who may have Narcan available in their homes or in the schools and they're administering it? Are there other steps that they should be sure to take after its administration or even before they may come upon an
The biggest thing that we always stress is that everybody calls 911 first.
Right.
Is that if you're going to think anything about giving the Narcan, you're going to want to call 911 because no matter what afterwards, the ambulance, the police, the fire, so someone needs to be there as well. And most likely they need to go to the hospital. So that's the biggest thing we always stress. And then just be there for them, because if they are unconscious and they're not going to wake up, make sure you're there to protect them. And even if they're awake, they might wake up a little angry. Just make sure you're there, especially if it's a family member. Make sure you're there for them. And even a stranger, make sure at least you're there until other help arrives if you're the one that calls 911.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Well, Tyler, thank you. And I also need to say congratulations to you. You were one of the recipients for the Council on Chemical Abuse Bud Haynes Community Service Award.
Yep.
And it's just an acknowledgement of your dedication and commitment to the community for the great work that you're doing in the Topton area to save lives. And so just wanted to publicly say congratulations and to thank you for your continued service. And for those that are viewing this episode and you would like more information about naloxone, we welcome you to visit the Council on Chemical Abuse website at www.cocaberks.org. That's COCABERKS.org. In the meantime, I'm Yvonne Stroman. This is your Bridge to Addiction Resources. Have a great day.
Check back every week for a new story with your Bridge to Addiction Resources. You can call 610-376-8669 or visit online at cocaberks.org. COCABERKS.org. Be sure to like and follow the Council on Chemical Abuse on Facebook and Twitter.